Michael Dunkley, members of Parliament and the Senate, civil servants who are gathered here today, and to all clergy. Today is a critical point in the time for this country. I reiterate, today is a critical point in the time for this country. Today is a day history will judge this country. Today, this government is charged with the solemn duty to make monumental decisions which will affect the social balance and stability of this country forever. We would like the Premier, the Cabinet, the members of Parliament, the Senate, and the Bermuda public to know that we believe all people should be respected regardless of their sexuality. We understand that to support traditional marriage does not equal bigotry, hate speech, or fear, and we reject such claims. And we do not and will not participate in nor tolerate any form of derogatory speech from either side. We held this public showing at 12 noon today because many civil servants wanted to attend during their lunch hour. Hence, we are thankful that the Cabinet Secretary has recanted his decision to stop civil servants from attending as we are not holding a protest before the Bermuda government to change the law, but rather a peaceful demonstration to ensure that this government upholds the present law. That law is for marriage to remain between a man and a woman. And now, Dr. Henry Darling, Kaiser Ferbert, Sharon Ennis, Lynn Williams, Caleb Zul, Jock Stewart, Mark Hall will share with you who we are and our unwavering objectives.
So Preserve Marriage Bermuda was created by a group of concerned citizens in Bermuda consisting of those of faith and non-faith, and is now a movement representing an active task force of over 400 diverse volunteers representing a wide cross-section of our community of all colors and socio-economic backgrounds. We exist to provide knowledge, direction, and action to almost 9,000 residents of Bermuda that have signed the petition for marriage to remain defined and upheld as a special union ordained by God between a man and a woman. Marriage brings a man and a woman together as husband and wife, to be father and mother to any children their union may produce. The Bermuda government should uphold this ideal, as social studies have confirmed for decades that children do best when raised by both their biological father and mother, whenever possible. Mothers and fathers bring separate, distinct, and irreplaceable parenting gifts in the lives of their children. How can we have a society that teaches that fathers and mothers are essential if we make laws to make fathers and mothers optional? Hence, the only reason why government has ever been involved in marriage for thousands of years is because governments have understood their role to uphold the ideal, because the benefit that marriage brings to children and all society. It is a private promise with a strong public purpose.
As a millennial, I want my future children to grow up in a society in which the government values marriage between a man and a woman. It's the best outcome to ensure that government has limited involvement in families while reducing the social ills in this society. Redefining marriage opens the door to other redefinitions of the family unit. Thank you.
We, as educators, know firsthand that the greatest contributor to the grief of many of our children experience is when one or more of the biological parents is not directly involved in the child's life. Surely, social benefits for same-sex couples can be addressed along with heterosexual couples without redefining marriage or creating civil unions, which studies show lead to same-sex marriage.
We, the people of Bermuda, have come together from all walks of life to ensure that the following objectives are met to preserve marriage, which is to preserve families and to protect our children.
As a result, we are standing for the following three objectives. Number one, the public, members of parliament, and senators deserve to know the truth about civil unions. In the debate between traditional marriage and same-sex marriage, a compromise introduced by some governments is the implementation of a civil union, which we understand from the press yesterday this cabinet is now trying to impose. However, the public must be fully informed that in almost every country, 20 out of the 21 that have redefined marriage, it started with civil union. In light of the documented facts, governments that introduce civil unions start the countdown to same-sex marriage. It is important to note that the majority of the world, 172 countries of the United Nations, has not redefined marriage. If a government understands the importance of its role in marriage and its significance to the betterment of society, civil unions would be an obvious contradiction to this objective. We advise the Cabinet not to introduce civil unions and Parliament not to pass this legislation, because it is proven that a vote for civil unions is a vote for same-sex marriage.
Objective number 2. We exist to ensure that existing legislation related to marriage in Bermuda is fortified. We request the government of Bermuda expeditiously enact supremacy clauses in the Marriage Act 1944, the Interpretation Act 1951, the Matrimonial Clauses Act 1976, the Human Rights Act 1981, to ensure that marriage between a man and a woman is not discriminatory under the Human Rights Act 1981. Because to fortify marriage is to fortify society.
And finally, we exist to ensure that a few do not decide for the many. If the Bermuda government is unwilling to stand strong for our society by upholding marriage between a man and a woman, as previous governments have done for hundreds of years, then the voting population of Bermuda must decide about marriage policy. Through a referendum and not by elected judges. The reality is that the redefinition of marriage results in reordering society, restructuring the family unit, and a radical cultural change in other countries such as the United States and Canada, where the evidence is obvious. The redefinition of marriage leads to transgender, same-sex curriculum being taught in schools, the rights of parents being diminished to protest against such education, and a challenge to introduce other forms of marriage, and those who support traditional marriage become labeled as bigots, and those who introduce or are spreading hate speech. Recently, the Chief Justice appointed by the governor made a ruling to give overseas partners of same-sex couples the right in Bermuda to reside and seek employment as a spouse, which results in a cultural change in our country, giving only a short time for implementation, that being by February 29th to be exact. The government did not appeal this ruling, and we believe that marriage in Bermuda should be decided by Bermudians. And then the legislation should make the appropriate legislation to uphold the desires of the people, rather than continue the legislative changes being decided upon and enacted by just a few, particularly the judiciary. This is not responsible governance. In a democracy, laws must reflect the desires of its people. Additionally, the European Court of Human Rights has in discussing the role of the judiciary when deciding same-sex marriage in the European states, and I quote, "As matters stand, the question whether or not to allow same-sex marriage is left to regulation by the national law of the contracting state. In that connection, the court observes that marriage has deep-rooted social and cultural connotations which may differ largely from one society to another. The court reiterates," this is the European Court, reiterates that it must not rush to substitute its own judgment in place of the national authorities. "We are best placed to assist and respond to the needs of society," close quote. In other words, let the people decide what they want in regards to marriage, because it impacts all of society. In conclusion, we want to reiterate for clarity so that the Cabinet is fully aware of our objectives. Firstly, we know all civil unions lead to same-sex marriage. It's happened in every jurisdiction thus far. The government will introduce civil unions by default. They are introducing same-sex marriage. Therefore, a vote in Parliament for same-sex unions becomes a vote for same-sex marriage. Hence, the government will be held responsible for that decision. Secondly, we have stated we exist to ensure that the Bermuda government expeditiously enacts supremacy clauses in the Marriage Act 1944, Human Rights Act 1981, and Interpretation Act 1951, and the Matrimonial Clauses Act 1976 to ensure that marriage remains between a man and a woman by definition, as the majority of the world has done, because marriage is the only relationship that has public benefit for all society. We cannot have a society that says fathers are essential, but then laws that make them optional. And our last one we've stated today is that we request that a few stop making decisions for the many. Marriage in Bermuda should be decided by the voting population of Bermuda, not by elected judges. So the future ruling reflects the people's desires for the sake of our children and our grandchildren. If Cabinet is unwilling to stand for the betterment of society, then marriage in Bermuda should be decided by the voting public in a referendum.
Mr. Premier, members of the Cabinet, we wish to thank you for hearing our appeal. Bermuda We thank you for joining us, but at the same time, we want you to know our stand for this cause will not stop here. As responsible citizens, we will fulfill our role to hold the Bermuda government accountable for what the people of Bermuda are requesting because of the enormous cultural impact same-sex unions and the redefinition of marriage has on our community and the next generation. We thank you for gathering. Mr. Premier, how are you, sir? We wish to share some information with you and members of the Cabinet. Thank you for honoring our request. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming to the Cabinet today. My colleagues are always very interested in listening and hearing and discussing all the views of the people of Bermuda. If we build a foundation based on respect, understanding, and tolerance, together we will find the best way forward. So thank you all for coming out here today. We will take the information you passed on and will continue to make these tough decisions as we move forward. Thank you. My colleagues and I will be happy to circulate with you in the crowd and discuss any issue we like for the next couple of moments. We do have to go back into Cabinet in a short period of time, but we're glad to have you here today to listen. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody gathered here. Let me once again say thank you, as the Premier has already done, for coming to Cabinet today to share with us the concerns that you have expressed in the petitions that you have presented to us. Let me just say that notwithstanding the degree of support for the movement of against redefining marriage, I don't know of any time that this government has ever said that we will redefine marriage. I do not know that that has ever been stated. And all I can say is that we will ensure that we listen to what the people express, and we will deliberate based on the information. You will know that this initial exposure to this came as a result of a petition that was presented to me in May of last year. At that time, I promised that we would look into the concerns that were expressed on that petition and that we would do some research and we would deliberate. As a result of that research, we brought that information to a couple of public meetings to ensure that people knew what it was that we learned, what it was that we discovered, and we disseminated that information to people who were present. In addition to that, we opened a website to allow people to make representations and submissions. And those representations and submissions have been very carefully looked at, distilled, evaluated, and analyzed. Following that, I promised at those two town hall meetings that I will bring the results of the information that we had and share that with the public. We will do that commencing on Thursday, the 11th of February, and the first of two town hall meetings that will be held to be able to share and disseminate with you that which we have learned, that which we have discovered, and that which we want to make sure that you are aware of as much as we have been made aware. It's important to say that this government looks at the concerns of all of its people. We react and respond based on what we have discovered, and we will always share that information with you. Having you here today is indeed encouraging to us to know that the democratic process works and works effectively, and we will ensure that as we share and disseminate information, that it will be done respectfully, and it will be done giving account for all of those things that are Bermudian. As I said, we have not taken a position in this government that we will redefine marriage, and therefore I believe that some of you will be very pleased when we have the public discussions in terms of what has been learned and what decisions may be taken. So thank you again for coming out, and I just wish everybody has an absolutely wonderful day. Thank you, and God bless you.